It's time to pick some of these. Obviously they're not as big as the ones you'd buy in the shops, but then you wouldn't expect that. But I mean, some of them are reasonable size. These, they're supposed to be long and thin, so that's probably about as big as they'll get. That's just the length of my hand, so I'm happy with that. And I've picked my first apple from the apple tree, so I'll take it home and have it after lunch. Don't have many apples this year, so I've got to treasure the ones I've got. The lesson I've learned this year is not to grow bush tomatoes in the greenhouse. They just are too susceptible to diseases, they dry out, they're too bushy. I'm constantly having to trim them and prune them. I mean, cordon ones do, but they're a bit easier, more straightforward. But bush ones, you know, this is late September, so they're on their way out anyway. But you know, this is the before, and here's a couple I've done earlier, and I've had to give it a severe prune because it was full of whitefly and dead leaves, and you know, missed a bit there. So I've just left a few that I've got tomatoes on it. The cordon ones are just about finished. I mean, this is sun gold, and it's got the last few on there. I have had a pick early today, so but still got a few green ones in. But this one is just about finished. These other ones, I've still got a few in. But the bush ones are really too big and bushy for this greenhouse, so I'm going to stick to growing cordon ones next year. Another important lesson is to keep the aubergines in check and prune some of the side shoots, because this has got quite a lot of small aubergines. I mean, these are so tiny, they're not going to come to much. I think I expected too much from this plant. Well, I mean, look at this branch, it's just absolutely round full of it, but I think it's expecting a bit too much from one plant, so I'd rather have a few big ones than lots of little ones. And the plant is obviously struggling because the leaves are going yellow, because it's trying to put out all these aubergines. I think next year I'll manage the aubergines better, and you can see got this one, that one, that one, that one. It's coming, all this stuff is coming off the main branch, and if I'd taken those off it probably would have done a lot better. I think it might have done better as well in a bigger pot. I mean, this is a fair size pot, but in a bigger pot it probably would have done better. Now that this tomato's had a severe prune, it's got a few tomatoes ripening, and it's got a few little ones there that may or may not get to ripen. It's got a few more green ones, but we'll see. But it's looking a little bit healthier, not so much yellow leaves, and bit more air circulation around it, so it should prevent things like blight. And that's a lot of prunings, or basically mostly tomatoes and a few leaves from aubergines. But yeah, that's a lot of foliage. My neighbour was giving away some bits of rosemary, so I've taken some and having another go at propagating them from cuttings. Let's see how it goes. I've put a plastic cover on it now, and then I'll put it somewhere out of direct sunlight and see how it goes. Right, 22nd of September. We're still getting tomatoes, but obviously it's coming up to the end of the season, so one or two good pickings and then that'll be over. The aubergines have got a few whitefly on them, so they're coming to the end. But you know, they've still got quite a few of these aubergines. Still a few good sized peppers. Now this is what happens. It was green, and I said, well, I'll let it ripen, and missed a couple of days, and something's eaten half of it. So these two are almost ripe. I'm going to take these off, because if I leave them, by the time I come back in a couple of days, they'll be ripe and something will have eaten them. These bay cuttings are doing great. They've settled in. I'm going to take them home and repot them and keep them inside over winter, because I'm just a bit worried that they might be a bit too small to sit out all winter, so I'll overwinter them at home the first year, and then they can go out in the spring. Loads of green tomatoes on these tumblers still, but whether they'll ripen is another matter. And I'm still getting tomatoes off the bush tomatoes, but you know, there's the green one, there's the red one, so we'll see how long we can keep them going. I'm just a bit worried they might get a bit blighty, but we'll see.